What's up? I'm Mal, and this is Demigod Debut, a podcast that's usually about me and my friend Julie talking as she reads the Percy Jackson books for the first time, but right now it's about me and whatever friends I can rope into joining me, talking about the Percy Jackson and the Olympians Disney Plus show. Today we've got episodes 3 and 4, and I'm joined again by my friend Bella.
Hey!
Anything you'd like to say? Anything new since we've last spoken with you?
I'm really excited to be here, excited to continue freaking out, being opinionated, never shutting up about this show.
Amazing. And we are also joined by a brand new guest that I'm very excited about, my roommate, Leorah.
Hello!
This has been a long time coming. She's been probably the number one fan of this podcast. So we've been saying for weeks we need to get you on here. Here you are. You want to tell us anything about yourself? Perhaps your demigod debut, like your relationship with Percy Jackson?
Ooh, yes. Yeah, my demigod debut. I read Percy Jackson for the first time in 6th grade. It was, I don't know if this is a unit that they did every year or they did it specifically for us, but they did a unit where like the whole thing was like, here's how we learn how to write a compare and contrast essay, and the Percy Jackson movie was coming out that year, and so they were like, we're gonna read the book and then do a class field trip to see the movie, and you'll write a compare and contrast essay. So we I think they cross curriculumed it with the history department, so we were learning about Greek myths and stuff in history class, and then reading the book in English class, and then doing this. So it was all very integrated, and I was so into it. I loved it. I was very much I'm a child of Athena, and my mom was like, that makes perfect sense because I served in the military and now I'm an English teacher, and I said, this is not about you.
You're not my real mom.
Real.
For you to insinuate that you're Athena is kind of not what we're doing here.
But I remember seeing the movie in theaters with my classmates, and I was like, this is not it. This cannot be it. And my compare and contrast essay, I just tore it to shreds. And we had those little, I don't know if you guys had them, but the things that aren't computers, but they're literally typing machines where you put a flash drive in it and you can only see one sentence at a time. And so I was on my little typing machine first of all, let me tell you about all of the things that this movie got wrong, and just ranting away. I don't remember if I did well on that essay, but I had to get it out of my system either way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, compare and contrast essay, lots of contrasts.
Lots of contrasts.
So last week, Bella and I did talk for 2.5 hours about the first 2 episodes. So we are trying to not do that again. So I've got an eye on the clock so that we can talk for an hour and a half max. Because that was editing hell for
Beautiful.
me, trying to cut that into a listenable length. Yeah.
Incredible.
Great. Anything before we jump into the third episode?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to be guided. I feel like I'm largely just a little puppy that you adopted, where I'm like, where are we going? Where are we walking to? And wherever we walk, I'm going to be so excited about it.
You're just along for the ride, and
Literally.
it's amazing. All right. Episode 3, we visit
Incredible.
the Garden Gnome Emporium. And so it kicks off with the Oracle. She's creepy, green smoke, no notes. I love the vibes of the attic in the show. Incredible. I also enjoyed keeping Gabe as the giver of the prophecy, but that in the book too has always kind of been an interesting choice to me. And
yes,
spoilers, I guess, for Titan's Curse, because that's the only other time we see the Oracle actually give a prophecy. But in that one, it's the green smoke forms Artemis, who's a part of the quest, and she gives the prophecy. So having it be Gabe, who's not a part of this, is interesting. And I just thinking about that choice. It's not a show specific wondering, it's just kind of a general wondering. But
yeah, because the only other time he rolls up or is even mentioned is when he's Percy is a criminal and he messed up my car. And it's okay, we hate you, but I don't know. Yeah, that's the only other time he's really mentioned in the book. That's always confused me. I've never tried to sit down and analyze why it's Gabe and his poker friends, because if I think about it too much, it pisses me off a little.
He wanted his 5 minutes of fame so bad. He was like, I'll talk to the news, I'll talk to the Oracle, whoever will listen.
Dude, literally, he's let me get coverage.
Shoot Gabe from his good side,
I guess. Also, the other prophecy choice that I find kind of fun is the decision to split it into 2 pieces. We only see Percy get the first 2 lines. And I think, it kind of shows the audience the same thing that he does in the book, where he comes back and reports only the first 2 lines and just keeps the last 2 to himself, which I love and appreciate. And then we choose some companions.
No, because the way that this man doesn't, he's a child, he's 12. But the way this 12-year-old does not wait for any other options to be like given, and he's just like, like immediately. And then Chiron is like, you don't want to hear like any other like options, and he's like, no, she'll push me downstairs. I love them.
And that's what we're looking for.
I know that Luke is a problem, and I know that we know that he's a problem, but this was the first time where I was watching it kind of thinking with the ending in mind, and like seeing his little face when he doesn't get picked, because like even though he is ultimately backstabbing Percy and not being a good friend, he's still kind of like, I got picked last in dodgeball and I don't get to go on a quest.
Yeah, Bestie is sad.
Well, I mean, it would have been a whole lot easier for him to achieve his means if he was chosen to be on the quest. Like, I almost wonder if in this version, and maybe in the book too, I don't know, the reason like Luke befriends Percy is because he has a feeling that Percy is this like kid of the big three that we've been waiting for, and so he befriends him thinking that like, okay, when he gets a quest he'll take me on it and it will be a lot easier for me to, you know, betray him and do all the things.
See, I'm thinking about it kind of like Mean Girls though.
Okay.
And this analogy is gonna make sense, I promise.
I love it here. Continue.
But you know when they're like, Katie, join the plastic so we can get the intel, and then she does, but then she's like obsessed with Regina and she like actually believes them to be friends, even though she is on a secret evil mission. I think it's more like that Kronos was like, Luke, you have to infiltrate the Percy Jackson squad to get all the info and plant the bolt. And Luke is like, okay, but then he's kind of like also like obsessed with being Percy's friend. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Oh, so Luke is Katie in this situation.
Yes, Luke is Katie in this situation.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yes.
Percy's obviously Regina George. Annabeth is Gretchen Wieners, classically.
Well, because I was already thinking about like photoshopping Charlie Bushnell's face onto Renee Rapp. But
no,
that's fine.
He's Katie. And Grover is obviously Karen.
No, because Annabeth is definitely Gretchen, because that girl knows everything.
Why don't we all just stab Caesar? Annabeth Chase would love to stab Caesar, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, she's like if Gretchen and the song Mastermind by Taylor Swift were like one person. That's Annabeth Chase.
But this is all to say, I think especially when you were a child on a mission for or against the fate of the natural world,
yes,
it can both be like, I'm on an evil mission, and also like, I thought we were friends.
Leorah, I love this take. I love this. Because Mal is a Luke hater. Mal does not like Luke at all, and she finds it very difficult to find any redeeming qualities in him whatsoever.
Okay, I didn't say any redeeming qualities. He has some redeeming qualities. There's just a few things that I can't get over, and that I will never be a Luke apologist because of those few things.
I'm not an apologist, but at the end of the day, he's a child. Like, if someone, when I was, how old is he? He's 18, 19?
He's 19.
If someone when I was 19 was like, hey, you're so pretty, and we have the best mission for you, I would be like, oh my god, I'm sold.
Yeah, and if the mission like aligned up with like everything I'd kind of been feeling, and they like confirmed that like, oh, the way that you've been like feeling, I can help you, and I can help you take them down for real. And guess what? I want you because you're pretty. Like, Kronos is the ultimate gaslighter girl bosser, okay? That's all I'm saying. Bitch is gonna gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss all the way out of Tartarus.
If any of my drama school teachers had been like, we'll give you the lead, you just need to steal the master bolt, I would be like, where's the bolt? Where's the bolt? The cast list comes out on Monday. Let's make this happen.
No, literally, I'm like, I got it.
5, 6, 7, 8.
You're not wrong. Like, okay, I definitely see how Luke became what he became. However, some of the methods that he uses later, I'm just like,
Oh no, I'm not saying good. I'm just saying maybe I'm bad too.
Yeah, so we immediately choose Annabeth. Even though it was fast, this is the slowest that Percy Jackson will ever choose Annabeth ever again. Like, Chiron would not even have to start talking in books 2, 3, 4, 5 before he's like, Annabeth. Like, Annabeth is probably already standing next to him. Like, we don't even have to ask. Like, it's the two of them. They're going.
Yeah, it's just assumed.
It's just happening.
Yeah.
I also am thinking about, like, how we could mirror this in a potential season 4 when like Annabeth gets her quest, and how like we could have her choosing Percy, because I don't know. And I went back to Battle of the Labyrinth because it's my favorite book. But like she like asked him to come, and he's like, oh, absolutely, like no hesitation, even though they were just fighting about how like we're not prepared to go into the labyrinth. The second like she needs him, he's like, I'm there. And so
Have they kissed yet at this point? I have no memory of this book series.
in Battle of the Labyrinth, no.
Okay. I tell Mallory this every week. I read this book series. I was a big fan of this book series in terms of the like Percy Jackson versus Harry Potter, Percy Jackson all the way. And yet you could tell me any detail that happened that didn't, and I'd be like, oh, cool.
Oh, dude, honestly, that's like kind of where I'm at too. Because like I haven't reread these books since like it's like been a minute.
And see, then I reread them yearly, so I remember the details very well. So, you know, we have a spectrum here, from y'all to me, clearly. Also, then telling us the second half of the prophecy as he asks Grover to come and says, like, I trust you and nothing is more important than that.
Pain. I love them.
It's also kind of Percy showing us that, like, whatever happened at Yancey is forgiven, forgotten, and, like, we're moving past that because, like, I
Yeah.
trust you, like, you're my...
That still pains me. Like that plot line pains me, but they definitely make up, and it's like fine. Whee!
Yeah, I know. They're such good besties, and justice for Percy and Grover.
Also, because like you can tell that like Walker and Arian are like besties in real life, and it just translates so well. And I just love
Yeah.
it. These kids are so talented.
Yeah. Then we get Luke and the shoes, and the way that the wings like come out of the shoelaces is so freaking cool to
Oh,
me. Art.
yeah.
Cinema. And then you have Percy calling the drachmas like Chuck E. Cheese tokens, which is silly. That's a boy who has never been to Chuck E. Cheese, because that's
No, take this man outside. Get this boy outside into the world. He's trying to flex. Like I've seen movies before to Annabeth, and it's like you're still so sheltered, dude. You've been in boarding school after boarding school. Like, sit down.
Well, I remember, because I just watched this today, so I'm in the loop. He asks first if they're Canadian, and then when he doesn't get a response, he's like, oh, the natural second guess is Chuck E. Cheese. Which ultimately, if you think about it, is Canada, not just one big Chuck E. Cheese.
agreed.
Charles Entertainment Cheese is a Canadian, okay?
If I've ever seen one. We can keep going. I'm sorry.
No, but can I keep going? Because nowhere to go from here.
You brought me here just to derail things. I'm like, what if every 5 minutes I make an insane metaphor and then don't talk again?
No, and it's wonderful. Please continue.
No, that's why you're here. Providing the entertainment factor for this episode, because
I'm Charles Entertainment Cheese. I was brought in for this episode not as a Percy Jackson expert, but as a Chuck E. Cheese expert.
the way that I'm like literally crying right
Charles Entertainment isn't real. He can't hurt you. You're safe. This is a safe space.
We're in America, Canada's north.
Anyway,
We get she met a pine cone's fate in this episode, which is one of the best per sassy lines.
Oh, also, I told Mallory this while we were watching that show, but they made that tree unnecessarily thick.
Oh, yeah, dude.
They made that tree a little bit thick.
It's
100%.
so thick. And you can see that it's like, it has a pose.
Yes.
and I don't want to talk about a 12-year-old's body, but
No,
she's
but
a
I'm
little
talking
thick.
about a tree. I would never would never say that about a child. Would say that about a tree.
Okay.
No, absolutely. We are talking about vegetation, okay? Strict line.
Never once.
But what if the tree is technically a child? It's housing the spirit of a child.
The spirit, but not the ass. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. The spirit and like the way the tree looks, two different things. Completely different things.
That was all Zeus. He could pick any tree, and he was like, "I'm gonna make it a little bit thick."
And as a professional hater of Zeus, I'm gonna critique his work. So
I guess we can talk about the tree. I love Thalia lore. I think she's so cool in the first 2 books. The way she's just kind of the ghost that's like haunting this story and like the lives of Annabeth and Grover. And, you know, when he first said that pine cone line, I like looked at Annabeth's face and was like, oh my God, she's gonna kill him and he's gonna deserve it. Because it's just so out of pocket to be like, she met a pine cone's fate. Insane.
Yeah, it is. It's very, I think here's the thing. I've seen that episode so many times now that that line is really funny. And like how I initially felt about it has kind of worn off. And so now every time I watch it, I'm like, I just like say it with Percy. I'm like, she met a pine cone's fate. And it's like funny.
It's very like only child coded to be like, to have someone be like, this really emotional thing happened. And only children are like, what?
It's a tree.
Yeah, like I think when you have siblings, like you have to learn a little bit of base empathy. And when you're an only child, you're like,
And he's like the most only child ever because he had one parent too. Like it's him and his mom.
Yeah, he also just he says like out of pocket things like that like in his narration in the book, but I don't know that he says those things out loud to people that he actually likes. Like he's always saying kind of wild things to monsters like to get them to fight him, but this was like I was like, "Oh, wow."
exactly.
Yeah. I think it was like part of them establishing that like inner
Yeah.
monologue externally, and then also showing like still isn't like fully comfortable with these people, and he still doesn't fully trust. He trusts Grover, right? But he doesn't fully trust Annabeth. Like at this point, he fully thinks like she's gonna betray me.
That is true. She might betray you, and she's also going to come and she's going to take over your quest because Percy's got the does she think she's in charge moment? And I have to say, like, Percy, if you thought this was going to be a democracy and you were going to like decide things based on show of hands, like, you should not have invited a girl boss like Annabeth on this quest. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Bessie is an annoying girl who will do what she wants because she knows she's right.
she would absolutely be that girl on the playground who is like, do you want to come play house? And then is like, no, you're doing it wrong, you're playing wrong, like you have to do this, you have to be this part. And Leorah is gesturing to herself because Leorah was that girl.
I was not allowed to. My neighbors had a sick setup in their basement where they had like a whiteboard and like a couple desks. Like they had like a mini school in their basement. It was sick as hell. All I wanted to do was go and hang out with my neighbor's basement and play school. And I was banned a little bit from playing school because I was always the teacher and I graded them too roughly. And so my neighbor's mom, who's like a good family friend, had to pull my mom aside and was like, I think it's starting to harm my children's self-esteem and we're gonna be needing to take a break from school.
Incredible.
All of this is to say I was a problem and I will probably continue to be one.
Okay, so we're questing. Grover's little like quest voiceover as they're like driving through New York does make it all feel very epic. Then I love, the immediate, very middle school humor of like cutting straight to the bathroom, Percy being like, this isn't what sacred smells like. I love a bathroom joke. I'm 12 years
That's
old.
something I live by.
One thing that I have been thinking of is with this whole like conversation that they start to have about how monsters smell you and the way like Annabeth tells Percy that she wants him to stay there because monsters can't smell him through the bathroom. It kind of reminds me that we never hear about Gabe and like we don't get the plot point that Gabe was protecting Percy in that he was like covering his scent and like that's why Sally married him. So like we never in the show get an answer for why Sally was with this guy. Like is this Gabe still serving the same role? Like I don't know.
Yeah. And like they cleaned him up a little bit. Like you look at the way that he's portrayed and you're not like, that is a man that reeks so bad that the monsters can't find Percy. Like I think they were like, we don't have time to explain this plot point. And instead of even just like implying it by clearly making like there's ways to costume and do all of these things where someone just reads stinky. And that was not where they were going, and so they were just like,
yeah,
he's just a guy that his mom married that sucks a little bit, and that's kind of the middle ground that they settled on.
Well, and I think you could almost still have Grover talk about it, like when they're having the conversation about how monsters smell things. Like he could be like, because that's what he does in the book to Percy. It's just like kind of a little throwaway, like, well, don't you want to know like why your mom married him? It's like to hide you from them. Like it, I don't know. I'm like, we could have taken like 30 seconds and we could have explained that like within this conversation and it would have been, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, we didn't do that. And it's one of those things that like, I don't necessarily notice that it's not there, like while I'm watching the show, until I like step back and think about it a little bit more. And I'm
Yeah.
like, huh,
Right.
this is not something that we did. So I don't know, just a thing. So consensus song.
Oh golly, the road's getting bumpy. Got me some friends who just can't get along. Oh dear. That's all I remember.
That song was stuck in my head for like 3 weeks. Still is sometimes, and I just find myself kind of being like, oh golly, sometimes, which is fun. But we act like the Kids Into song is like really, really silly, but it does its job. Like they do stop fighting. They do stop fighting because Annabeth goes like, chips and soda's okay, and Percy's like, whatever. Like we're not fighting anymore, and the problem is over. So really,
Yeah.
thank you, Grover.
But was the bonding just because we don't want Grover to sing anymore? It did a job.
Yeah.
Exactly. But sometimes you got to take what you can get. Like I often do cringe things in order to like confuse people enough to like do something else, you know? Like and then also we get Bella's favorite line of like the whole series.
Oh my god, our voting system's broken. That is okay because it works on so many levels. Like I just love because like our voting system in the US broken. Like the voting system within this friend group broken. I love it here.
So true.
Oh, and democracy goes back to ancient Greece, so who's to blame? You know what I'm saying?
Then Annabeth in the store trying to pick candy is so important to me. Like the little concentration face that she makes, adorable. And then like there are layers to this. Like number one, this is a child who has not been out of camp in the last 5 years. So like all this candy is new to her. Like it's a whole new world. And then it makes me think of that. Have you seen that one tweet that's like, ah, yes, I'm going to get a good grade in therapy, something that is normal to want and possible to achieve? Because I feel like that is just Annabeth at all times, but especially here. She's like, I'm going to get a good grade in picking out candy. I'm going to be the best at it. And that is something that is normal to want and possible to achieve. Like, I have to be perfect about this the way I'm perfect about everything else because I'm a perfectionist and a planner, and this is my first quest, and everything needs to go perfect. And I love her. She's so dear to me.
I also love that like this is the first time I feel like in the show where you see Annabeth be like uncertain
Yeah.
and not know everything. And it's one of those instances where like Percy actually knows more than her about the real world. And so like if she would have just sent him in, he would have come back with like banging snacks. He may have died because, you know, the Furies were there, but like, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it was like really fun to see her be like, with the boys, be like, I got this, I'm going. Chips and soda's okay? Great. And then she gets off the bus and she's like, this is very interesting. You know what I mean? And like, I know she's been in the real world before, but she just has much less experience with it. So it was interesting to see her kind of that like smart girl facade like crack a little. And
well, especially too because it's one of the only times, certainly the first, where we see her alone. And so like of course she's always certain when she's around other people because it's performative to an extent. She knows a lot more than most of them, but it's also fairly performative that then like this is the first time that she is alone and in the real world. So there's like all of these factors.
And I really thought she was just going to put on the hat and leave with the snacks without paying. And honestly, she should have. Like, you should be allowed to do a little bit of theft when you're trying to save the world. Like, when you're 12 and you're trying to save the world, the bottom line of some rest stop in New Jersey is not your concern because you're trying to stop a war between the gods. And so this is me saying that Annabeth should be allowed to steal things.
And they only were given $200 for 3 people.
That's not enough. That's not enough.
3 people to get across the country? Are you kidding me? That is not enough money.
Which is insane.
Inflation is a thing, okay? $200 in 2005.
That is
way different than $200 in 2024. Anyways.
And, you know, she sits down, she has a conversation with Mrs. Dodds, and which is fun, but also, why can no one leave Thalia alone in this episode? Like, the way that she's like, if Thalia had been better at her job, there wouldn't be a nest of squirrels making her their home. Like, what was the reason? She's not even here to defend herself.
Right. And it's one thing when like a child makes fun of another child, but you're a grown woman.
Exactly.
Who's like centuries and centuries years old. Like, come on.
There's a lot about this conversation that doesn't check out to me. Like the way that, you know, it might just be her trying to like butter Annabeth up to get what she wants, but the way that she's like, you're the pride of Athena's offspring, probably the most formidable demigod child alive. Like those things, while they are true later in the series, it doesn't really feel like they're true now. Like I don't know how she could be considered the most formidable demigod child alive when she hasn't ever like been out in the real world. So it
Right.
probably just is Electra trying to butter her up to like get like knowing exactly the things that would like appeal to Annabeth in order to get her to betray Percy. But she doesn't do it. She just kind of disappears mid conversation, and it's very important to me that she's offered kind of the glory that she so wants, like in getting rid of Percy, to be able to complete this quest on her own, and like she doesn't take it, she doesn't do it. She's already a better friend.
But they're just such soulmates.
Also, the first time I saw her knife in the show, I gasped out loud.
Yeah, I freaked out.
She does a lot of just like stabbing first and running away in both of these episodes. It's kind of her MO.
It is absolutely her MO. She's like, good job, bye.
I mean, I think running away is kind of Annabeth's MO just in general. She ran away when she was 7, and she kind of continues throughout the series to run away.
That's a read.
Yeah.
I also think she, because once the feelings start to get real towards the end, she like spends a lot of time running from Percy and like the way that she feels about him. And she's a runner, she's a track star.
She gonna fly away.
And then you get the whole Percy wanting to call camp and Annabeth being like, we can't do that because that would tell the people like it was a mistake to choose us, and Percy being like, that's fine, everyone makes mistakes. Like
that would be my gut reaction.
It's like when some kids like throw up at the sleepover and they're like, don't call my mom, I'm staying here. And I would be like, the couch that they set me up on is not going to be a great situation. Can you come and get me?
Yeah, absolutely. That's me.
Chiron, can you pick us up? We're scared.
Me.
We have soccer practice in the morning. We all have to go.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just kind of the start of the way that their sort of worldviews are just kind of in constant conflict with each other throughout the beginning of this season of TV. And I just think it's fun. Like, it's fun to see the way that they like look at things differently. And this is also, the beginning of the very juicy Athena plotline with Percy saying like, well, let's call your mom at least, and kind of realizing that like that's not an option either, because Annabeth doesn't have that kind of relationship with her mom as much as she pretends that she does. Excellent. I love angst. I love drama. So like this is I'm seated. I'm here for it. And the like Grover was my protector first. Juicy.
I love the way they did that scene.
And I love that we're doing it sooner, because in the book, Grover doesn't tell him until after they like Iris message Luke, and Luke brings it up. And so that would be like episode 6. Like that's way far away. And I think in order to make them like a team, you have to kind of get all this stuff out there. Like you have to.
So much exposition dump though in these 2 episodes. Like there's a lot of, and I think that's part of the reason why they didn't do the Gabe thing too, is just because they spend so much time like on the bus, and then in the next episode like in the Amtrak car being like, here's my backstory that motivates why I do these things. And it's very like, and I get it, like there's not really another good way around it, especially when you don't have like that what is it called,
internal monologue.
Yes, that's what I wanted.
Yeah,
so I get that things have to be spoken, but it feels like if I learn one more fact because a character willingly offers upfront information about themselves, I'm like, who does this? But then if someone meets me at a party and just like, tell me about yourself, I'm like, well, here's what I'm working on in therapy. So you know what? Actually, I take it back.
Me too.
As you should.
That's so
As
real.
you should. But I had kind of had that same issue when I was rereading The Lightning Thief for this podcast. I was like, okay, they're just like giving us so much information. And I think I've kind of reflected a lot on my kind of thoughts about this series. And when I think about like quintessential Percy Jackson, a lot of the things that I think about come in later books. And like you kind of have to get all this information and all this like dumped on you to kind of understand the world in order for things to get like really, really good. Not that the first couple books aren't good, and like not that the first couple seasons of TV aren't like great and wonderful. It's you kind of have to know about things and like learn about things, and I feel like they kind of did their best to like give us all the information in a way that like made sense, but also like it is a lot of information,
right? Because I think in a book too, like you're suspending your disbelief because it's not like you're watching people do it. And so when someone info dumps in a book, you're like, great, now I have this information, turn the page. But when you see like a real person do it, then it's a little bit more like, oh, that's a lot for you to just say in this moment.
Yeah, I agree.
So Medusa. I have to say, I really like the change to have them kind of know that it's Medusa from the jump. I think because like when I was reading this with Julie, like I know she found it really frustrating because she was like, okay, this is very clearly Medusa. And like you want me to believe that like Annabeth is smart and like Grover has been in this world forever, and like the fact that they wouldn't clock that this is Medusa is crazy. So it makes sense to me that like even if she didn't introduce herself, like they would still pick, and like Annabeth kind of does. She's like she's got a garden full of petrified stone folks. Like who do you think this is? Like, and I like the way that we use kind of the Medusa to put Percy and Annabeth kind of at odds with each other, but in a different way than we do in the book, because in the book it's very much like, oh, our parents are fighting, but in this it's very much like we both believe so wholeheartedly in our moms, and our moms have like told us this story kind of very differently, which like Sally has told Percy that like Medusa is not a monster, whereas the story, you know, from Annabeth's mom Athena is that like,
Yeah.
you know, Medusa was punished, she deserved this, like Athena was in the right kind of situation, which I think is it's excellent. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, I love making Medusa queer. That's incredible.
Yes, because devoting your life to a goddess, like, and being like, I would have worshipped her in silence forever, like, that's gay as hell. Gay as hell.
Oh, see, the choking straight here went right over my head. I was like, cool, they're friends. Love that.
I mean, it's not like explicitly written to be that way, but like,
No, I know, but like,
the interpretation is there.
Yeah, that's my interpretation of it. Is Medusa is queer as hell, and then she was like, Poseidon's giving me attention. That's fine.
So Medusa with her big old table of food is
Yeah.
interesting to me as well, because who is she like is she just really desperate to like be able to host people? Like she just really, because you know, when she's talking about what happened to her, she's like, Athena like made sure that no one would ever like see me again who would live to tell the tale. So it's like I feel like there is a part of her that does like want that community, and like she wants to be able to have a house like full of people enjoying the food. But also it's like a lot of food. Like, and
Yeah.
what does she do with it? Like when she's
Medusa is contributing to food waste.
exactly. She is.
Canceled.
She is. Canceled. The turning people to stone is fine. She's canceled for food waste.
Well, you know what though,
Yeah.
if we're talking about ecological contributions, actually she is doing a lot for the planet because ultimately people are killing the planet. So she is turning a bunch of people into stone. Think of all of the individual carbon footprints that she is erasing.
And 9 times out of 10, food is biodegradable.
Yeah, it's all compost, baby.
Yeah, so the parallels are really paralleling in this episode. Actually, in both of these episodes that we're talking about today, because the way that Medusa tells Annabeth, like, I wasn't like you, I was you. Like, I devoted myself to Athena, and then I was punished for kind of the deeds of a man. More on that later. I like getting to see a little bit of Annabeth's pride here, because it's like, okay, you could just stop talking and like let Medusa talk, but she has to get in there. She has to defend her mom and kind of be like, no, it wasn't a gift that she gave you, like it was a curse, like you deserved this, whatever. And then that kind of being the thing that like makes Medusa go off and like kind of lure Percy off. And then they are paralleling once again. Medusa makes kind of a similar offer to Percy that like Annabeth got from Mrs. Dodds, and unfortunately, she does not know Perseus, my fatal flaw is loyalty Jackson, because he's never going to do that. He's never going to do that. And so he's like gone before she's even finished talking. But, you know, iconic. And, you know, I do enjoy Medusa saying that she and Percy's mother were kind of like hurt by the same monster, aka Poseidon. Parallels. So many parallels, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
The Medusa fight, I do like the use of the invisibility cap to keep everything PG.
Is the show PG? Did they manage to get that rating?
It's rated V for violence.
Oh, okay.
I think, yeah, I think
That makes
streaming
sense.
is different, or maybe TV shows are different. I don't know. I don't really know how rating works.
Interesting.
But, you know, him carrying the like invisible head is giving a little bit High School Improv.
Absolutely, that was my first thought, is when improv comics aren't good at prop work and they don't quite know how big things are. Because he's a little bit doing that thing, and I'm like, I don't know how big that head is.
Yeah, but you know, I can get over it. So come with me here, because I have many thoughts on the using the head of Medusa to turn Electro into stone. Like, there are layers. There are layers and there are parallels. Like, there's a lot of things happening in these episodes. But so first, you obviously have the like Perseus Andromeda parallel, because Perseus like uses the head of Medusa to turn the sea monster that's like gonna eat Andromeda into stone, so that he like saves her and whatever. And so like you have Percy kind of making the same pose as the like Perseus statue, holding up the head as Annabeth like looks on from behind him, like, we're giving Perseus and Andromeda. And then there's also like the Thalia of it all, which is really interesting, because the Furies are what killed Thalia. And so thinking about like the last time that Annabeth kind of stood back and watched as a child of the big three like took on the Furies, and how it like ended so much differently, and like the way that it like Percy just kind of takes her on no problem. And then also thinking back to the way that when they were leaving, Annabeth told him like, you're not Thalia, kind of parentheses derogatory, but here he's kind of showing that he's not Thalia in like a positive way, which I think is interesting. So, you know, there's layers.
Yeah. The parallels are paralleling.
Thank you. The parallels are paralleling.
Yeah.
And then we get back to the basement, and Arian is acting his face off with the discovery of Uncle Ferdinand, who got turned to stone. And I love the way that our empathetic King Grover recognizes that like you do have to have uncomfortable conversations in order to move forward. Like, when things are not working, when there is conflict, like, you have to stop and you have to talk about it. And that is a lesson that I'm still trying to learn as an adult. And I know he's technically 24, but he's also not an adult. Like, he's a child.
I'm 24, and let me tell you, I am 12.
So I'm just like, okay, you go, because I don't know that I would like. I would have just dealt with the fighting. I probably wouldn't have called Percy and Annabeth out for their like nonsense.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, we share our parallel betrayal opportunities that we both turned down with like, I killed her sister, I cut off her head, kind of.
And the way those lines were written, shoot me in the stomach. It was so good. Like, the way it was like, and what'd you do? I cut off her head. And like, oh yeah, she tried to make me give you up. And what'd you do? I killed her sister. Unhinged besties, but slay.
And they're asking it like it's one of those things where it's like, you already know. Like, you were both there on both occasions. This is not new information. Like, you're asking because you want to hear them be like, oh, you did what?
Yeah,
like, you saw it.
Yeah. Chef's kiss. Now we're a team. It's wonderful. Though I didn't think we could ever be friends line still gets me, because I'm like, you have no idea what's coming. You have no idea what's coming, and you have no idea how important this person is about to be to you.
Yeah.
And,
the
so
foreshadowing, nuts. Absolutely insane.
Don't worry, you won't be just friends for long.
It's a slow burn, so we will be friends for longer than we want. But you know.
True.
Yeah. And then, thank God, we shipped the head to Olympus, which is, I feel like, just so quintessential Percy that it had to make it into the show. And he says he's impertinent, and he sings his little incorrect consensus song to, like, get Grover to stop
The gods will see it as impertinent. I am impertinent. Incredible. I love it here.
It's so good. It's so good. And then, you know, in the last little bit of this episode, they hit us with the Lin-Manuel Miranda jump scare. Just for a second, I was not expecting to see this man this early. Honestly, like, you both know the way that, like, getting the casting for Lin-Manuel Miranda as Hermes affected my life greatly.
Absolutely.
And
we do.
So, yeah, I was like, oh, he just, like, continues to surprise me, because, like, I didn't think we were gonna get Hermes in this season at all. And then the fact that it was Lin-Manuel Miranda, and then the fact that we saw him in episode 3, like, yeah. So overall, this is the episode where, like, things really get cooking for me. Like, there's this is the one that I really think it starts to get good. They start to really find their stride, and yeah, so definitely in the like top half of the season in terms of ranking for me. Any other thoughts from y'all before we move on to 4?
This is an ending thought, but it's also a transitional thought. I love that they made 2 of the scariest women in back-to-back episodes, like the artistic choice to make them so soft and play them so feminine. That is, I love it. There is like, because that specific brand of like softness in feminine rage will never not be fascinating to me. I think ultimately it is scarier to be quiet than be loud. And like, it is such a cool thing. And I literally looked up the actress playing Medusa in interviews because I was just curious what her actual voice sounded like. Because I was like, I think she's doing a voice. And I think like this was a choice to have this very sweet, sing-songy voice. And it does add very much to the conversation of whether or not she's a monster, which is, again, if you look at what actually was happening mythologically, it's a tragedy all the way around.
Yeah.
Like having all of this like awfulness happen to her and her still be like soft, I think is just the most
Jessica Parker
choice.
Kennedy, I love her as Medusa. Like
So
she
good.
is so wonderful, and like
she's great.
the last time I saw her was a Cinderella story with Selena Gomez, an incredible Cinderella adaptation. And it was just like, I don't know, she's incredible. And like the way all the kids talk about her so highly, like she's incredible. She was such a great Medusa. And Leorah, I like completely agree that like this like softness and this like kind of like divine feminine rage, it's so complex.
And you see it with Echidna too.
No, the amount of times that like Mal and I will be watching episode 4 and we're like, there is nothing scarier than like a nice white lady. Like,
yes,
truly horrifying.
No, it's like peak, and it's like to totally different ends, because one is like the world punished me for like caring this much, and I'm still going to continue to care. And the other is that like performative, like Karenness of like, how much can I get away with if I fit the feminine status quo? And so it's like either ends of weaponizing femininity, and both are fascinating to me.
So true.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was all I wanted to say. I think the acting choices are so juicy. I went to acting school. This is yummy to me.
Definitely. Great. So episode 4, I plunged to my death. I love this episode. I think some people on the interwebs do not, but those people are incorrect, because this is a peak episode for me, honestly. Like we open on Sally and Percy at swim lessons, and my first thought, because like you can see the skyline in the background, which is beautiful, but then my first thought is, why did they go to New Jersey for swim lessons? Like surely there's somewhere closer. Like I know that the New York City public pools offer swim lessons and stuff. Like you don't have to go to Jersey.
I don't know. Maybe it's like I've seen the cleanliness of like the New York public subway. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I wouldn't want to be in a public pool here either.
Yeah, that's fair. There's only so much chlorine can do. Okay,
that's
all I'm saying.
Like, granted, it's Jersey. I feel maybe that's unfair to say. I feel like any public pool is just what it is. Maybe it's an unnecessary dig.
Any public pool is like half.
I threw up in a pool once when I was a kid, and I didn't know that I had thrown up in a pool, and so like I was still swimming around and everyone else evacuated, and I was like, what's going on, you guys?
We're getting a lot of Leorah lore tonight.
I love it.
So ultimately, I don't think I should be allowed to be like, oh, New York City public pools, because like I'm part of the problem. I was actively throwing up in public pools, so who am I to judge?
See, my town growing up had a lake in it, so everyone peed in the lake because it was like, it's the lake.
We did too, but our lake is also the drinking water.
Yeah. So every one of these flashback scenes like just makes me feel so hard for Sally. Like she was really going through it. She's so stressed and so scared about what's going to happen with Percy, and Percy like telling her, just breathe, like you'll always be here. Ugh! And then especially like hearing that now, like when we know like she's very much not here right now, like she's also not going to be able to be there for him in the same way ever again, because there's just kind of this part of his life now that she's never going to be able to be a part of. And that's and then it just like morphs into the Chrono Stream, and baby Percy still in his swimsuit, and Forbidden Hero attracts doom, all that. It's too much for me. So then on the train, the delay between Percy asking, "Are you awake?" and Annabeth saying yes gets me every time. Like
I
it's
love
always
them.
just longer than it should be. Peak cinema.
I also love, this is like a little tangent, but I love when like that happens where someone's like, "Are you awake?" And they don't, it's just like a general like throwing it out there so that like if this person genuinely doesn't want to talk and they are awake, they can just continue to like fake sleep. But it's like the fact that she just kind of like waited and then she was like, yeah, like she's opening up conversation. That's important to me. But she like
Yeah.
had full ability to just say like nothing.
Yeah.
Anyways, consent's hot.
It's so true. So Percy asks about Thalia, and there's I want to talk about how Annabeth says that Thalia made her earn it, because that's such an interesting way to put it, because it almost makes Thalia look like, it almost paints Thalia kind of in a bad light, which I don't think we're trying to do here. I don't know. It's just like interesting that Annabeth's like, "Oh, Luke cared for me right away, but Thalia like made me earn it." Like it's just doesn't feel great to like be making a 7-year-old kind of earn your affection. But also kind of thinking about what Luke said, where he was saying like, we were nervous about taking Annabeth in, but then she kind of showed us that she could handle it. Like she can fight really well. Kind of makes me wonder, like, did Annabeth overhear something between Luke and Thalia where Thalia's like, "No, like we can't take this 7-year-old with us, like we can't do it." And then Annabeth took that to mean like, "Oh, I have to prove myself." Because there's a lot of kind of disconnects for me in the way that like Annabeth talks about other people and their relationship to her versus kind of what we see. Like the way that she talks about her family versus then like the family that we see later in the series feels a little bit different than like the things that she's said. And so like, I don't know, I'm kind of like, earned it. What does that mean?
I have a couple thoughts. Not to get psychological on it. I feel like the first thought is it very much informs how her view of like interpersonal relationships and especially like relationships with the gods is going forward, because like all of this stuff about codes of conduct and honor and all of that feels very much informed by it. The second thought is I think it makes sense in a way that Thalia has more of a guard up than Luke, because like she has more on the line. Not to be like Luke doesn't really matter again after being like Luke already got picked last in dodgeball, but ultimately like who cares about a son of Hermes? Like be so real. It's the most populated cabin and Miranda's getting it. Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it is not like everyone's after the demigods like because they're demigods, but no one is after Luke the way that people are after like Talia. So it is much more of a risk for her to bring on a child than for Luke, who's like, do, I'll make it to camp either way, no one cares, which is his baggage.
Yeah.
And clearly he's very sad that no one cares, but also like he's gonna make it to camp and be fine.
Thalia was like 12 when this was happening. I'm just here to remind everyone these are children. So like
right.
I also think that was an element of it of like I am fully 12 and this little human who's 5 years younger than me also I'll like have to protect her and myself, but I'm literally 12 and I don't know if I could do that. Completely legit, bro. Completely legit.
Also, it's like when you have to hang out with your younger cousins and you're like, I'm in middle school now.
No, literally, it's like, no.
Actually, I wear a bra, so I don't know what I have in common with children. I'm a woman.
Okay, yeah, no, that's true, that's fair. And I don't know, the way Annabeth also talks about like with the gods, at least you know how you can earn their affection, kills me.
Yeah. I think Mal, like I completely agree with like what you're saying. And I think just like in addition to that, like Thalia's 12. And I think Thalia and like of Thalia and Luke, Thalia is the one that's like, bro, she's 7 and we would kind of have to take care of her. And he's like, oh, it's gonna be great.
And isn't that just gender roles and parenting?
Okay, so true. Maybe I'm just like being a gender stereotyper here, but
no, but it's so true when you hear like young couples talk about wanting to have kids, like specifically like young straight couples, that like would-be dads are always like, it'll be sick, and the people that are like, I have to actually carry this child, like
that is true.
Be so real.
Well, there is like a short story called The Diary of Luke Castellan, and in it Luke like writes about them finding Annabeth, and he like kind of refers to their little family, but like in the way he describes his family, it's very clear that like he thinks of himself as the dad and Thalia as the
Yeah.
mom, and like Annabeth is their child. So maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I get Mr. I have the most perfect mom in the world, like just cannot fathom this idea of this like conditional love that like Annabeth has known, and he's like, that's not the way that people who love you are supposed to treat you. And the way that Annabeth says that her dad treated her as a gift at first, and then like the stepmother came along, it's interesting to me the way that we are villainizing the stepmother more than like her dad here. And like this is just one conversation. I don't know if this is exactly what we're like, if that's exactly what they're trying to say, because again, like Annabeth is biased, and I think the way that she says things isn't always necessarily the most true in her like relationship with other people. But Frederick Chase and I have beef because of the way that he is not a good father, and I'm like, if this show is trying to make me a Frederick Chase apologist, I will not be, because I can't do that. And you know, I do feel for him, because if I was just like hanging out with this goddess and all of a sudden she was like, hey, here's this child, like do the partners that Athena chooses to give these children to, like, do they consent to this? Because it doesn't feel like they do.
Right.
Yeah. Also, like, really quick, going back to like Annabeth describing her anger towards the stepmother, I think again, they're children. I think as a 12-year-old, like, I think it's easier to blame not your dad, right? Because it's like,
Absolutely.
this is who's supposed to be taking care of me and love me unconditionally. And then it was all fine until you came around, right? And it's like, it's really easy for her to be like, it's the stepmom's fault. And it's easy for her to be like, well, it's not my dad's fault. Like,
yeah,
that's he always wanted me, and like it has nothing to do with him. And so I think also part of it is just her coping. And I think you're right, Mal, of like, it's only her point of view that we're getting of this very complex situation that is her family. And so I just think, I hope that they just like keep kind of unfolding that story. Yeah.
I hope we can get more of it now that it's not like us looking at Annabeth's family through the lens of like we're playing a game of telephone where like Annabeth is telling Percy and Percy's telling us about this family and like the things that she's experienced. So I hope that we do get to see a little bit more and we get a little more understanding of the Chase family dynamics, because they're fascinating to me and much to think about there. And then their little dining car conversation. I love them sitting at this little table. And I love Annabeth giving him a hard time for saying, can I ask a dumb question? Even though his questions aren't dumb, let the record show. It's super valid to want to know how we're going to find the underworld once we get to Los Angeles. And it's also super valid of Grover to be like, that's step 37. We're on step 4. Like, we gotta cross the bridge that we're on before we think about the one that's like 3 states away. Like,
no, Grover's a king for that. That's literally what my therapist tells me all the time. She's like, Bella, you're trying to figure out step 51. We're on step 2. I need you to calm down.
There's a lot of like emotional maturity from Grover that I really appreciate, because we need that, because again, we're 12, and so it's nice to have someone who's there.
But he is 24. Like, there are moments where I'm like, oh, like, you're a child in Seder years, but in the context of like time lived, you have lived more time than the children that are human children.
So he's had more time to kind of figure things out. Also, Echidna slays, and it's fun because in the book she's kind of a nothing one-off villain. Like, the mother of monsters could be really cool, and in the book she's kind of not, but I think the show kind of makes her a little like ups the stakes a little bit. And I think also making her just kind of a stereotypical affluent white woman is a good choice. Looking at the way that she like interacts with the cops and like the power kind of that she has in that situation is interesting.
Well, even the fact that they have Annabeth talking to the cops of like, are we going to be arrested? And like, clearly there are dynamics at play that like, if you're thinking about like a white woman has framed these group of children, and the child that is taking the brunt of it is Annabeth.
Well, because the one who's like taking a tone with the cop is Percy, the one white kid in the group, and then the one that the cop takes it out on is Annabeth, and it's like, you don't want to take that tone with me, little girl. But I do love the way that her like glare at the cop does get its own little like ominous little music when she's like, are we
Yeah.
under arrest?
And I knew nothing was like shady was gonna happen because it was like Disney and Percy Jackson. But did my heart rate go up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I lived in Minneapolis in 2020. So like respectfully, I was so nervous, dude.
Also enjoy how we're kind of contributing to the conversation more on like who are the real monsters. The way that she's like, I think the demigod is more dangerous than like any of my monster children, because like, yeah, from her point of view, they are like, they're the ones killing her children. And then you also have her continuing the lore about the way monsters track demigods and how like I needed you to understand what was happening so that she could like this is so interesting, and like I want them to give me more of like explain this to me a little bit more, just because
Yep.
it's different than the way it's presented in the books, but I don't know, I think it's very interesting. Then Percy gets stung, we run down the train, we're chased by a chihuahua, comedy gold. The little chihuahua running past the window is excellent. And then we end up at the arch where Annabeth gets to share her little fun facts, which is so important to
Incredible.
me. Like the way she's just like, it's a
Yeah.
monument to my mom and also to math.
It's a monument.
I also like the little conflict between Annabeth and Grover with like the manifest destiny stuff in the museum. Like she's like, no, that's what the mortals say this is about. And Grover's like, it can it can be a monument to both things. Like you have to kind of reckon with that. And I just this other way that you kind of see Annabeth like refusing to see any negatives in her mom leading up to what's about to happen. It's so good, it's so juicy, and it hurts. Then, Percy being dumb to make Annabeth laugh when like he very clearly feels like crap here. Like he's starting to look paler and paler and he's still like making jokes to make her smile. Then, he kind of falls over, and them splashing him in the fountain will never not be funny to me.
So
like,
funny. No, and they knew exactly what they were doing. Every person
is the way that Annabeth is so stressed. Like we have not seen this level of stress from her until Percy was in danger, and like they're friends now. Like we're besties. We're besties.
Oh yeah.
And she the way that she was like so adamant that like we don't ask for help, and then she's like, no, we're gonna ask my mom for help now that like Percy's in danger. Everything's coming together. It's all coming together. Now, the Athena of it all.
Not a girl's girl.
Not a girl's girl. Not a girl's girl. And I stand by that. And we're coming off this Medusa episode where she talks about, being abandoned by Athena, this like goddess that she's devoted herself to because of kind of the actions of a man. And like obviously, with the power dynamics at play there with that relationship, like I feel like the blame is more on Poseidon. Like why was Poseidon in Athena's temple with like one of Athena's like priestesses? Like,
oh, absolutely.
And then we turn around in the very next episode, you've got Annabeth, who is kind of turned on by her mother because of the actions of Poseidon's son, because even though she like wasn't necessarily a part of sending the head to Olympus, like she didn't. Grover was the one who spoke up and was like, this is impertinent.
Which is ironic if you think about it, because the whole reason that they sent the head, well, part of the reason was that Percy wanted to, and he does what he wants. Literally, the other reason was they were like, well, Grover was like, that's the hat, which is the only thing that could keep the head safe from just being stumbled upon, was a gift from Annabeth's mother. And so Percy was trying to think of a solution where Annabeth could keep the gift from her mother. So like the tragic irony in like Annabeth like holding on to the symbol of the relationship with her mother was ultimately what offended her mother is just like, that's really sad.
It's so sad. It is so sad. And it's also like it's not her fault. And also like the way Percy's like, we got to send the head back to where it came from, the way you would like a battery. Like they're trying to figure, like the intentions are good, even though it's like we know this is how the gods are going to take it.
He's warned that he will be taken as impertinent, and we've already discussed he doesn't care.
Like he knows how this is going to go over, but also like the intentions behind it are not necessarily like this is a big middle finger to the gods. It's I
think it's little stinker intentions though. I think he's absolutely trying to be a little stinker.
He is, but it's also like I also am gonna like make this your problem because you caused it. So it is little stinker, but it's like, yeah, you deal with this because we don't know how to.
Yeah.
So then we go up to the arch in the elevator, and Annabeth kind of has to explain to them what Echidna told her that like she had offended her mother, and her mom like let Echidna and the Chimera into the arch. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, Percy is like fully dying at this point. Bestie's going down.
Percy is dying, actively dying. And yeah, so up in the arch, they're like, we gotta get all these people out of here. So Annabeth, Icon, pulls the fire alarm and then tries to send, Percy and Grover down the stairs. And she's like, I'm gonna stay up here and I'm gonna fight this monster. Then classic bait and switch. Percy's like, I think not, and does the little switcheroo. And the way that he stands at that door and he's like, no, I was never gonna make it to Hades. Like, this is the end for me, but like, you guys still can. While they're pounding on the door and they're like, Percy, you can't do this. Like, let us in.
No, and like, I have to sing the praises of these kids. Like, the way that you could see in Percy's eyes, like, Annabeth is like standing up and she's like, okay, you guys go do this. Like, you can see in his eyes, he's literally actively trying to figure out how he can take her place. Like, there is active thought in those eyes. And like, as much as she's panicking, like, he's panicking 10 times more about how to get her out of this situation. Walker Scobell, you're like 10 years younger than me, and you're like so much more talented than me, and that's so, just like, go off, bestie. Incredible. Oh my god, these kids, they're so talented.
All this to say, I will be sending my therapy bill to Joe Trace because I know he was like the head writer on this one.
Yeah.
For whatever the heck this scene was, because it hurts me deeply. And then, like, Percy has to fight the Chimera half dead, and he looks real bad.
Mal, what do you think of the Chimera?
I was just about to say, I was like, you know who doesn't look real bad? My bestie, the Chimera. I'm sorry, controversial hot take. I think the Chimera is adorable because she is. Like, she's just a big old, like, tiger, and I think that she's really, really cute. Like, yeah, she breathes fire. She's huge, but like, she's just a baby. I can't explain it.
She's literally just a baby.
Exactly. Thank you.
The connotation of adorable and cute typically also coincide with like kind and like not wanting to do harm. And the fire breathing dragon with fangs and horns and that is like 10 feet tall actively coming towards the like dying 12-year-old. If I would call it.
But I will say that there is a theme in these two episodes of escaping the ways that our parents have made us and the ways that we have been raised. And if nothing else, the Chimera has been raised to breathe fire at 12-year-olds.
So true.
So is this just another example of generational trauma? You know what I'm saying?
So true.
Okay, you know what? So true. And I'm not like saying that like the Chimera is like horrible. I just like, whoa, I'm afraid of her.
That's what I aspire to be.
I'm not a Luke apologist. I am a Chimera apologist.
There it is.
So just like something about it, I'm like, aw.
You're nuts, dude.
I am who I am, and I will not apologize for that.
No, and you shouldn't, and you don't have to. This is a safe space.
Thank you, Leorah. I'm inviting Leorah back next week, and Bella's not invited.
Hey, yo.
That's fine, but
and I stand by what I said. Thank you. Yeah, and Percy really does not do well in this fight. He loses his sword immediately. Yeah, gets knocked into the hole, and then we get to do the dramatic thing where he like starts to lose his grip. Like he's got both hands, and then he's got one hand, and then it's like, oh, the fingers start to go. Then he falls, and we finally get the answer to the most like burning question in Percy Jackson, which is how does he make the jump from the arch to the river? And we've got this like big water spout looking thing that comes and grabs him.
I will say, like, the shot of Percy falling from the arch was one of the like strongest oh, these are kids moments for me of like, because like reading it in the book, like my imagination can only do so much, right? Like nothing to do with Rick's writing, I said this last week, but like there's just only so much I can imagine. And so like seeing the scale of this teeny little blob who I know is a 12-year-old falling to his death, it was a lot for me. I was very
well, and the way that there's no sound for that part either, like you see him let go, then they like zoom way out and you see just like the shape falling and there's no sound. I was like,
you just hear the wind, like
horrifying. It was horrifying to watch. Horrifying, absolutely horrifying. But thank God he gets brought into the water, and then he gets to have his like power up moment where the river spirit comes and tells him to go to Santa Monica and that his father's proud of him, and he learns he can breathe underwater, and it's great. Like when we were waiting like week to week, the biggest thing that upset me about this episode was that it was like really short, but I don't know that there's more that I would have put in here. Like I feel like you come in and you get everything that like needs to happen in. And it was just kind of annoying at the time to be like, we waited all week for 33 minutes and 5 minutes of that is just credits. But you know, this episode is also in like the top half of my episode rankings as well. I think it's any final thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, I'm realizing that like I don't actually think I have an episode rank. I think I just have like my 2 favorites and then there's the rest of them. I just can't rank them.
I have a ranking.
And I love that for you. That's iconic.
That's how I think about things. I have a ranking of these. I have a ranking of the books. I have a ranking of the like book series like as a whole. And yeah, I like to rank things.
Yeah. I think I'm not that way. I think I'm like, oh, this one's my favorite, and then there's the other ones.
What about you, Leorah? Final thoughts?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have a rank because I think I don't know. I'm very with stuff like this. I'm much more narrative focused. Of like, oh, and we're all working together to tell the story. So it's more like no small parts. We all did it.
Yeah.
Final thoughts. I'm trying to think if I have anything because my big final thought is just about the ways that like the female villains are portrayed, but I already did it.
So it was a good thought. It was a good thought.
Blew my load too soon with that thought. I should have ended with it and it would have been.
No, it's okay.
No, I agree though. And I think also like going back to what you said of like, it's the fact that they're like back-to-back episodes too that makes them so like hauntingly like complex. It also kind of like adds a layer of complexity that I love because like you're already like questioning like, well, is every monster really a monster? Like, and so I think it just adds another layer to that narrative, and like it continues to like, expand upon this idea of Percy has different values and has like a different set of morals, which I think is an overarching theme of the whole like show, is that like Sally taught him to be his own person. And so I think these complex female characters bring in that theme as well of like not everything is as it seems, and like Percy is thinking independently of this world, and he's going to make decisions and choices not based on what people in the Greek mythology world tell him, but what his like values and morals say to do.
And to loop that back into feminism, because it is International Women's Month, I think it's so fascinating that like ancient Greece was like the patriarchy. Like it was the patriarchy to end all patriarchies. It gave us a lot of things, but it sure did give us the patriarchy. The Greeks in their society were not kind to women, and certainly not in their myths. And if the myths are a reflection of what their values are, versus like this child who has been raised in something of a matriarchy, raised by a single mother, and like clearly Gabe sucks. And in the book, he's a lot more like abusive and has a lot more control over the household.
Well, and it's also interesting that in all the flashbacks, it makes it feel like it's just Sally and Percy versus the world. So we don't even really know when Gabe kind of entered the picture. Like at what point he came in.
No, Gabe feels like recent.
Yeah.
Or maybe even like while Percy was at boarding school, because even the scene, spoilers, when she's dropping him off in a couple episodes, like Gabe is not there and like Gabe doesn't go to Montauk with them. So like for the majority of his life, I would say if he's 12, I would say like Gabe has to come in when he was like 6 or 7 at the earliest. Like he was raised in like a matriarchy. And so to have that at odds with the ancient world where like, even though Annabeth is the girl boss, she is so entrenched in like the patriarchal ideas because like Athena's not a girl's girl. Athena is trying to prove that she can keep up with the men. And so is Annabeth.
Well, and I think there's a lot of examples like in later books and other times of like Annabeth not being a girl's girl. And I think a lot of that is, you know, being raised in this society. Like I will defend Annabeth's actions in the Battle of the Labyrinth with my life. like she's not a girl's girl. And it's okay because we were all like that at 15.
No, it is okay because exactly. You have to keep in mind she's a 15-year-old girl.
Oh, absolutely.
But I also think just like tying into this like Percy being raised in like a matriarchy, the fact that this bitch prays to his mom, his mortal mom in episode 2, instead of his legitimately godly father, incredible. Incredible. That's what I want to see. So anyways, women rule the world.
Yeah. Well, there's like a tweet or a Tumblr post or something that I saw one time that's like, Percy was raised by one amazing, powerful god, and then also Poseidon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. And none of this is like, is feminist better than women? A 12-year-old boy. Not my point. I want to be so clear. I don't want to be like, who's better than the female god of war at understanding feminine power? I'm speaking more broadly about the effects of growing up in a patriarchy versus a matriarchy. Feminist icon versus
For
Jackson.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Percy drinks his respect women juice. For sure.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. Well, so this has been such a delight. We should do this again. This has been a great little trio. Thanks so much for talking about Percy Jackson with me.
Absolutely.
Anything to plug? Like, if you want the people to find you online after this, Leorah. Probably not you, Bella. I know you don't want to be perceived online.
I was just gonna say, please don't, Leorah.
If you want to find me, I'm very easy to find. My name is Leorah Wood. My handle across pretty much all platforms is @_Leorah, Leorah. And if you liked any of my anecdotes, if you thought any of them were silly and or funny, I have my entire debut hour of comedy, Dress Up. It is on YouTube. You can watch it for free, and you can watch it over and over again and just really skyrocket those views as a treat for me.
It's very good. I would recommend.
It's so funny. Mal and I got to see it live. It's incredible.
And they saw it both within a month of knowing me. It was the first time that I met Bella, and so that was a vote of confidence.
And also within like a month of knowing each other in person. I was like, hey, you want to hang out with me for like the second time in person? You want to go to my roommate's comedy show, who I really don't know? Like, I don't know if she's funny. So like, really, we took a gamble and it paid off.
So the moral of the story is stream Dress Up. It brings people together.
Absolutely, it does.
We would not have been friends without Dress Up.
I'm taking credit for the friendship. I did it. You're welcome.
Well, so next week we've got episodes 5 and 6.
Yes!
We big fans of episode 5 here, so very excited to talk more about the TV show. Thank you both for being here. This has been lovely.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Anytime. Come back anytime. Catch you later. Hey, thanks for listening. If you want more unhinged content from me, you can find me running the podcast socials, posting memes and fun little things on Instagram, the social media formerly known as Twitter and now TikTok at DemigodDebutPod. Catch you later. Bye!